In the history of the great empires that have marked the destiny of humanity, a nation emerges whose power and leadership transformed the course of modern history: the United States. From modest beginnings as a young republic, built on ideals of liberty and justice, this country quickly rose to become the world's most influential superpower. With its technological dominance, its imposing military power, and an economy that defined global trade, the United States positioned itself as a symbol of progress and hope. But what factors led this nation to such greatness? What were the ideals and values that underpinned its success? And even more disturbing, what forces could precipitate its downfall? Finally, what role are you destined to play in God's sovereign plan, especially in the end times prophesied in Scripture? In this documentary, we will explore the rise and eventual fall of the United States, analyzing the signs of its decline from a historical and prophetic perspective. From biblical foundations to the social and economic upheavals affecting this nation, we will unravel its impact on the global stage and its connection to the events described in the Apocalypse. Before we continue, tell us, do you think the United States will play a major role in the events of the last few years? Share your opinion with us. Let's get started. Although Bible prophecy spans all of human history, its primary focus is on the end times, the period leading up to Christ's second coming. And according to many Bible signs, that time appears to be near. The prophecies clearly refer to several small modern countries such as Jordan, Israel, and Egypt. However, the question arises, is God mentioning the United States, one of the world's major superpowers? If so, where is it located? What term does the Bible use to refer to the United States, and what does prophecy reveal about its fate? To address these questions, a detailed analysis of biblical prophecy and its relationship to history is necessary. So, dear listener, let us begin by exploring the history of the United States and how it managed to establish itself as one of the world's leading superpowers. The history of the United States and its rise as a world superpower is a fascinating tale spanning centuries of expansion, innovation, and global leadership. It all began in 1776, when the American colonies declared their independence from the British Empire, establishing the principles of freedom and democracy as the foundation of their nascent nation. After winning the American Revolution and adopting the Constitution in 1787, the United States began to expand territorially. Events such as the Louisiana Purchase in 1803, the annexation of Texas in 1845, and the Mexican-American War in 1846 and 1848 granted the nation vast tracts of land, turning this young nation into a vast and diverse territory. The 19th century saw rapid industrialization that boosted the country's economy. Innovations such as the transcontinental railroad, mass production, and mass immigration from Europe played a key role in this growth. During this period, the Civil War also arose, a devastating conflict that eliminated slavery and strengthened the unity of the country. At the end of the century, the United States began to project its international influence, acquiring territories such as Puerto Rico, the Philippines, and Guam after the Spanish-American War in 1898, marking its first steps as a global power. The 20th century consolidated the United States as a world leader. Its involvement in World War I demonstrated its military and economic capability, while the Great Depression of the 1930s tested its domestic resilience. The New Deal helped rebuild its economy, but it was World War II that truly transformed the United States into a superpower. His decisive role on both the European and Pacific fronts, together with his leadership in post-conflict reconstruction, positioned him as one of the leaders of the world order. During the Cold War, the United States competed with the Soviet Union for global supremacy, leading the space race, developing innovative technologies and strengthening military alliances such as NATO. In 1991, with the fall of the Soviet Union, the United States became the sole global superpower. Since then, it has led economic globalization, promoted technological advances in areas such as computing and biotechnology, and played a key role in international conflicts, such as the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The rise of the United States as a superpower was due to a combination of factors. its isolated geographic location that protected it from invasions, its abundance of natural resources, its stable political system, and its focus on technological innovation. Today, although it faces challenges such as global competition with China and internal tensions, the United States remains a dominant force in the economic, military, and cultural spheres, shaping the history of the contemporary world. Now, it is crucial to consider that much of America's rise as a world power is due to its historic support of Israel, thus fulfilling the divine promise recorded in Genesis chapter 12, verse 3. "I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families of the earth will be blessed through you." This biblical principle establishes that those who bless God's chosen people will receive blessings from Him in return. Evangelicals see a direct connection in America's history between its rise as a global leader and its decision to back Israel at key moments. A clear example of this is the recognition of Israel as an independent nation in 1948, when the United States, under the administration of Harry Truman, became one of the first countries to officially recognize the newly formed State of Israel. This act is interpreted as a fulfillment of God's will, and many believers maintain that this decision marked a before and after in the United States' relationship with divine favor. In addition, over the decades, the military, economic, and political support that the United States has provided to Israel has allowed this small country to prosper amidst a context of regional hostility, and this support has been seen as a sign of fidelity to biblical principles. Now, history has shown us that no human empire is eternal. All at some point have fallen. We saw this with the Babylonian, Roman, and British empires, which once seemed invincible, but today only vestiges of their former glory remain. We believe this will be the fate of the United States as well. At some point, this mighty nation will have to fall, especially considering that it has gradually become estranged from God. Furthermore, we cannot ignore the fact that the United States is currently the most indebted country in the world. The U.S. debt has reached historic levels, positioning itself as one of the main economic and political challenges facing the nation. Currently, public debt exceeds $36 trillion, a figure that continues to grow rapidly due to increased government spending, recurring fiscal deficits, and rising interest costs. This debt represents more than 120% of the gross domestic product, a percentage that has caused concern both nationally and internationally. Rising debt is affecting the United States in multiple ways. First, interest payments have skyrocketed, reaching record levels that outstrip even key spending like defense and social programs. This increase restricts the government's ability to invest in infrastructure, education, and other areas essential for economic and social development. Moreover, the country's growing reliance on foreign investors, especially from countries like China and Japan, to finance its debt makes it vulnerable to changes in the global geopolitical and economic landscape. The high level of debt also has a direct impact on the domestic economy. To attract investors, the government may be forced to raise interest rates. This makes borrowing more expensive for citizens and businesses, thereby slowing economic growth. This situation could also lead to a loss of confidence in the dollar as the world's reserve currency, weakening the U.S. economic leadership position. If the dollar loses its privileged status, the cost of importing goods would increase significantly, affecting both consumers and businesses. Historically, high debt levels have led to the collapse of major powers due to their inability to sustain their financial obligations. Although the United States remains one of the most dynamic economies in the world, the current pace of indebtedness puts its long-term economic stability at risk. Without significant fiscal reforms, such as reducing public spending and increasing revenues, the country could face a fiscal crisis that limits its ability to lead on the global stage and respond to economic or geopolitical emergencies. Considering all this, it is not unreasonable to think that the United States could cease to be a power at any moment. However, we do not seek to be alarmist or to indulge in speculation. Therefore, it is important to direct our attention to biblical prophecy, which offers us clear revelation about the end times and the nations that will play a crucial role in that period. So let's begin by considering the book of Daniel, chapter 7, where we are presented with the vision of four beasts that, as we have already noted, They represent four empires that emerged throughout history. These empires are the Babylonian, the Medo-Persian, the Greek, and the Roman. When remembering these empires, many tend to focus on their greatness and power, but often overlooked is how cruel and ruthless they were, which is why they are depicted as beasts in Bible prophecy. Now, in contextualizing these four world empires, we will focus our attention on the Roman Empire. In Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 and 8 describe this empire as follows. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a fourth beast, dreadful and terrible and extremely strong, having great iron teeth. It devoured and crushed, and trampled the remains underfoot. It was very different from all the beasts I had seen before it, and it had 10 horns. While I was contemplating the horns, behold, another, a little horn, came up among them, and before it 3 of the first horns were plucked up, and behold, this horn had eyes like a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Daniel failed to compare this fourth beast to any known animal, describing it as dreadful, terrible, and exceedingly strong. This deeply caught the attention of the prophet, who longed to understand more about this beast. In verses 23 to 27, more details about it were revealed. Let us note what the biblical account says. He said thus, "The fourth beast will be a fourth kingdom on earth, which will be different from all the other kingdoms, and it will devour, tread down, and tear the whole earth. And the 10 horns mean that out of that kingdom 10 kings will arise, and after them another will arise, who will be different from the first, and he will overthrow 3 kings. And he shall speak great words against the Most High, and shall wear out the saints of the Most High, and shall think to change times and laws. And they shall be given into his hand until a time, and times, and half a time. But the judge will sit, and his dominion will be taken away, and it will be destroyed and brought to ruin until the end. And the kingdom, the dominion, and the greatness of the kingdoms under the whole heaven be given to the people of the saints of the Most High, whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all dominions shall serve and obey him." Daniel seemed to be deeply shocked by the fourth beast, which was so different from the others. What undoubtedly impressed him most was the appearance of the little horn, a new element that had not been present in Nebuchadnezzar's parallel vision in chapter 2. But above all, what stood out most to Daniel was the arrogant boasting of this horn, which even went so far as to make war against the saints and manage to defeat them. Although Daniel understood that this victory would be brief, since he knew that eventually the saints would receive the kingdom and reign eternally, he could not help but wonder how God could allow this little horn to triumph over his people. Even if it was for a limited period of time, there were still many questions that remained unanswered. Who was this fourth beast? Who did the 10 horns represent? And what did the little horn mean? Let us reflect on each of these aspects. In first place, in historical fulfillment, the fourth beast symbolizes the Roman Empire, which was the largest, strongest, most united, and most enduring of all. In second place, who are the 10 horns? The explanation is provided by the biblical text itself, and the 10 horns mean that out of that kingdom 10 kings will arise. As we have already noted, the fourth beast symbolized the Roman Empire, and these 10 horns will be 10 kings that will arise within that kingdom. Note that the emergence of these 10 horns indicates a later development. Some have suggested that this will occur in a new Roman Empire that will rise again in the future. This would be supported because the 10 horns correspond to the 10 toes in the vision that Nebuchadnezzar had in Daniel chapter 2. Let us note that in that vision the legs and feet were made of different materials, the legs of iron and the feet of iron mixed with clay, which could indicate a later kingdom that would be related to the previous one. This would support the idea of the resurgence of a new Roman Empire. On the other hand, these 10 horns or kings are mentioned again in Revelation chapter 17, verse 17. And the 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they will receive authority as kings 1 hour with the beast. There are various theories as to the identity of these 10 kings, but in my opinion, they represent real political leaders who will emerge in the end times. These kings will form a confederation or alliance of 10 nations, divided into 5 nations from Europe and 5 from the Middle East, all from territories that once belonged to the ancient Roman Empire. These leaders will rule alongside the Antichrist during the Great Tribulation. It is important to remember that in 285 after Christ, The Emperor Diocletian carried out a division of the Roman Empire as part of his administrative reforms, designed to deal with the crises of the 3rd century. Diocletian implemented an innovative strategy known as the Tetrarchy. In first place, he divided the empire into 2 parts, East and West. And second place, he assigned to each region an Augustus, chief emperor, and a Caesar, designated successor, as leaders. In third place, he established additional strategic capitals, Constantinople for the east and Milan for the west. Although this division had administrative purposes, the empire was still considered a single entity. The final separation came after the death of Emperor Theodosius I in 395 after Christ. Theodosius, the last ruler to control a unified empire, divided the territories between his 2 sons. Honorius took control of the Western Roman Empire, while Arcadius received the Eastern Roman Empire. Therefore, in the future, when a confederation or alliance of 10 nations is formed, consisting of 5 from Europe and 5 from the Middle East, from among them the Antichrist will emerge, as noted in Daniel chapter 7, verses 7 and 8. Then, in my vision that night, I saw a 4th beast, terrifying, frightening, and very strong. It devoured and crushed its victims with enormous iron teeth and trampled the remains under its feet. It was different from the other beasts and had 10 horns. While I was looking at the horns, suddenly another, smaller horn appeared among them. 3 of the first horns were uprooted to make way for the new one. This little horn had eyes that looked like humans and a mouth that boasted with arrogance. In this passage, it is revealed to us that the appearance of the Antichrist will occur after that of the 10 kings, and that, in his rise to power, he will overthrow 3 of them. We are also told that he will be different from all the others. The book of Revelation describes that this character will become the absolute dictator of the whole world. Therefore, dear listener, based on this analysis, we can conclude that the United States is unlikely to play a significant role as a power during the rule of the Antichrist. This interpretation is based on the fact that biblical prophecies focus primarily on Europe and the Middle East, highlighting the resurgence of the ancient Roman Empire, as described in chapters 2 and 7 of the book of Daniel. In this context, the United States may have lost its global relevance due to internal factors such as moral decay, economic crisis, or political collapse. Reflecting deeper, this leads us to consider that the true relevance of nations is not in their earthly power, but in their alignment with God's eternal purposes. America's demise as a global power may be the result of a progressive departure from the biblical principles that once underpinned its greatness. This moral and spiritual decline not only affects a nation, but reminds us how the scriptures underline the fragility of any human kingdom when it departs from the ways of God. Furthermore, these prophecies are a warning to all believers. Let us not place our hope in political systems, economies, or governments, but in the eternal kingdom of Christ, which will never be destroyed. End-time events, though dark, remind us that God remains sovereign and that his ultimate purpose is to establish his justice and peace throughout creation. Therefore, our calling is to be spiritually prepared, watching and trusting in the promises of the one who has the last word in the history of humanity. So we come to the end of this video. We sincerely hope that it has been a great blessing and help to you. We invite you to join us in our next video, where we will continue to share more edifying content. We will meet again very soon. May God bless you and keep you always.